Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jen Rowe. I'm an Assistant Director in Law, Policy, and Governance here, and I'm going to take you through NCAA committee service and how you can get involved and the benefits of serving. With the NCAA with the NCAA being a member-driven organization, this means that the membership is really responsible for the decisions of the organization, and we handle this through a very robust committee structure. So the goal of this webinar is to help you understand how to get involved in that structure. So we're going to review just the overall governance structure, and then we're going to dive into the specifics for Division III committees with the timeline for governance committees, the timeline for sport and playing rules committees, because these vary a little bit in Division III. I'll also talk to you about the nomination process by using the nomination form, and then we can just really chat briefly about the benefits of serving. As with all divisions, Division III relies on volunteers who serve in the committees to help develop and implement policies and procedures that guide how your institutions are going to operate your athletics programs. In order to serve in the NCAA governance structure, we use volunteers from the membership, and they can include anybody that is employed at a collegiate institution or a conference office. The biggest caveat here is that you have to be employed at least at a part-time status, but it is not limited to those just within the athletics department. You don't have to be solely employed in athletics. You could be a professor or a staff member or a faculty member, but predominantly we see people that are involved with some sort of tie to the athletic program, but we do have college presidents and chancellors involved as well, and sometimes admissions people, those kind of things. There's a role for anybody who really wants to serve. So overall, at the top of our organization chart with the committee structure, we have the Board of Governors, and the Board of Governors has oversight over the entire NCAA. The Board of Governors consists of members from all three divisions and also some independent members that have no ties to the NCAA structure whatsoever. Within that, we have each division has their own structure, and there's some talks about changes to that structure, but right now we'll go with what we've got. We have general governance committees. We also have sport committees, and we have playing rules committees. So within the general governance committees, we have Division III specific committees. That would be like Division III Management Council, Division III President's Council. We have Nominating Committee, Championship Committee. Those are what we consider the governance committees. We also have some association-wide committees where all three divisions help populate those association-wide committees, and those would be the Committee on Women's Athletics, the Committee on Competitive Safeguards and Medical Aspects of Sports. Those are some examples of our association-wide governance committees. Then Division III also has sport committees, which help run the championships for each sport. And then we also have some sport committees that are considered national collegiate, where all three divisions participate in that sport. So an example of a national collegiate sport committee would be men's and women's skiing. And then we also have the playing rules committees. The playing rules committees are technically association-wide committees, but they help populate the rules for committees. And those, again, have members from each three division in there to populate those specific committees. And they all have their own different timeline. And so what we'll do is we'll dive into those a little bit more specifically so that you can understand the timeline when we start soliciting for these vacancies to populate these committees. We're going to talk about the specific Division III governance committees and the annual vacancies and the process for this. So for our Division III committees, their term dates follow the January cycle. This is different and unique to just these specific Division III governance committees. So when we post for these vacancies, when they come up, the postings go up usually in early May. Your administration gets an email from us, and then we also post them on ncaa.org. So they'll start being open in this year about May 2nd. They'll close at the end of June. You would submit a nomination for that. Then the Division III Nominating Committee has oversight over the review of the nominees, and they will meet in September to review the nominees and make their recommendations And those recommendations will go to D3 Management Council, usually at their October meeting, where D3 Management Council reviews and approves those recommendations. And then from there, I am able to send out appointment notifications, usually towards the end of October, maybe early November. And that takes you through just that annual process, and those terms would start that upcoming January, and they are typically a 4-year term for those. We'll talk about immediate vacancies. Occasionally, what happens is a current committee member can no longer, continue their service, and so what we do is we have to fill that spot, and these are considered immediate vacancies. And once we go through this process, once we know somebody has resigned their spot, that vacancy will get posted again to ncaa.org. It's usually posted for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then once those nominations come in, we will take those to the next Division III nominating committee for them to review, and then they would send their recommendation to the D3 Management Council for approval. If D3 Management Council is not meeting, doesn't have a meeting on their schedule close to that time, they do have an administrative committee that can handle those appointments because they are immediate. They can approve them outside of their regularly scheduled meetings so that we can keep the process moving. When it comes to these immediate vacancies, your term would start once that appointment is approved. It's an immediate start date, and then you would take over the service of that outgoing committee member. If for some reason that service is 2 years or less, you would actually be eligible for a reappointment for your own full 4-year term if you so choose. And that's how that process would work. In general, it takes about 2 months from start to finish, from when we post the vacancy until we can actually complete it. It's on an average about a 2-month process to fill an immediate vacancy for those governance committees. Here, we're going to talk about association-wide committee vacancies. The term dates for these, it's across the board. It starts September 1, and they usually go to August 31st. Most of these committees have a 4-year term. Sometimes there's some variances there, but in general, it's mostly a 4-year term. We will post these vacancies in early September, the year before they close. So like for this past year, for the September 2022 vacancies, we posted those vacancies this last fall in September, and then they usually close towards the end of October. There, it gives me enough time to pull all that information so that the Division III nominating committee can review those at their February meeting. Again, from the February meeting, that report and those recommendations go to the D3 Management Council to review and approve at their April meeting. And then we can send out the notifications of appointments, or if you're not selected, towards the end of April. So this process seems probably really, really long, and it is. And that's where you got to have a little bit of patience of that. They get posted in September, and you're not actually hearing towards April, maybe even early May, that you've been selected. So there's a big window of time, but we just need that kind of time to help fill those vacancies, or in case we need to re-solicit in case there's not enough nominees in the pool, then we've got time to fill them before they start that following August. Immediate vacancies is how we handle them is similar to what we just talked about with the general governance committees for Division III. It's that same window. As soon as we know a vacancy comes up, we'll post it for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then it can go to the nominating committee on their next meeting, their next available meeting, and then it can go to D3 Management Council for approval, using most likely their administrative committee to handle that process. So our immediate vacancies are very similar across the board when those pop up. So let's talk about sport and playing rules committees. These vacancies also follow the same term dates as the association-wide committees. And so they start September 1 and they go to August 31st. Sport and playing rules committees, they are a 4-year term. And then we follow the same process as we do for the association-wide. So again, they get posted towards the beginning of September. They're going to close towards the end of October, and they will get put on the February meeting agenda for the D3 nominating committee. And then we send these, go to actually the D through Championships Committee for approval and ratification, and that's where they end. And so once the D3 nominating committee meets in February, they usually can get approved maybe in March or April, and then the appointment notifications are made following that approval. So those tend to move a little bit quicker, just maybe by a couple weeks or so, when we're able to notify everybody. Same thing with the immediate vacancies, as we've talked about. Same kind of themes run through. Your appointments would start as soon as it's approved, and you serve the remainder of the departing member's term. If for some reason that term date is less than 2 years, you would be eligible for reappointment for a full 4-year term. We follow the same timelines. Again, they get posted for 3 to 4 weeks, and then they would get put on the next agenda, the next meeting agenda for the nominating committee to review, and then they would get sent to the D3 Championships Committee for approval. They also have a process that they can handle the immediate vacancies outside of their regularly scheduled committee, so we can handle them. Again, they take close to about a 2-month timeline to complete that process from start to finish for those immediate vacancies. So on NCAA.org, under the committee section, the link is listed in the PowerPoint. You would go to that link, and you can click on that link when you're on NCAA.org, and it will take you to the nomination form. Traditionally, what we see in Division III is most people will self-nominate. You can also nominate other folks for it. So there's different parts of the form that you would actually complete. If you're nominating someone, you would complete the nominator form, and then they would receive an email. The individual that you're nominating would receive an email to complete the rest of the statement. Or you can just go ahead and you fill it out for yourself, and it's totally fine. All are welcome. Self-nominations are welcome, and being nominated are welcome. Neither one has more of a weight than the other. There is some tricks to the trade when you're completing the form, is to be sure that you recognize there is a 1-hour time limit on the form. So you need to go ahead and complete and submit that form within a 1-hour time limit, or it doesn't actually save to the system. You'll get usually some sort of error message. It will say, do you want to save this? Or it will say method not allowed. And then it won't actually populate for me to see. So on my end, once it's completed, then I actually have to go in the system and manually activate it. And then you can actually look and see your nomination. Your name would appear as somebody who's currently active for that committee. There's a way to do that on the nomination form or on that same website. As you're completing the statement, there is a statement that you need to complete. It is incredibly important to detail the value and the experience that you might bring to the specific committee. The D3 nominating committee, they only look at those bios. Your nomination form is the only thing they use when they're looking at the nominees, and that's what they use, that information, to decipher who would be in the best position to serve at this particular time. And so it is really super important to take the time and complete a really thoughtful statement. And you need to do this for every committee that you choose to be nominated for. So some things to think about when you're in the system and you're going to go say, hey, I think I want to serve on this committee. You could actually go down and select every single one. You would have to complete a statement for every single committee. And we do see this, that some people will be pretty heavy-handed with how many committees that they'll select. And I would say, just through my time in this role, is that it's really important to be a little selective on which committees you want to apply for. If you select every single one, it's really hard to decipher where you might be best suited. So I would take the time, learn which committees you want to try to be on first and get that experience, and then expand from that once you've gained some experience. Don't go ahead and select every single committee. It just tends not to go well in your favor to select every single one. Plus, it's a ton of work to have to submit a statement for every single one. You can copy and paste, but then that's not really a great way to go about it either. So, because you're not deciphering your experience or the value that you may bring with that. So that's the nomination form. And then we can talk about the benefits. I think the committee service is an incredible value to this organization. It's a great way to be part of the decision-making process for the association. This is where you can take your experience at a local level and expand it to the national level and how it can impact things at a much larger scale than in your own little world on your campus. It's also a great opportunity to grow and gain some valuable leadership opportunities. You can become a vice chair or a chair, or maybe you lead a working group through a particular issue on that committee. So there's some incredible opportunities as you tackle some really big issues for the organization as a whole. The other great piece of it is it's going to expand your network. Some of the people you meet, you might become lifelong friends, and you never know how they can help you. Maybe you have to move across the country or have that opportunity, and you now know people who can maybe help bridge that gap for you and help get you into a new position or just another opportunity. And so the people you meet are going to be just in the same mindset of that they want to help the organization as a whole, and it just can really just add an incredible amount of value to your own network. And then I think the best part about it is that it is actually fun to serve on a committee. You get to come to glorious, beautiful Indianapolis at wonderful times of the year. And it's a great way to see here the national office and how things work here a little bit, but also just the joys of working with other people and getting outside of your daily work and into a different atmosphere. And those would be some of the reasons why you should really consider putting your hat in and joining the group and trying to find a way you can serve on any of the committees as a whole. Currently on NCAA.org, there's probably about 20 or so committee vacancies that are up that we're looking for, mostly for starting in September. So if you're interested, you can see which committees we have some vacancies that we're still trying to fill. We are looking for really, a diverse nominee pool. So a lot of these we need to kind of throw back out so that we can get some more people in the mix. But the nominating committee is very encouraging to see, they really want to get new people in the process to get some experience. And so they're very thoughtful and thorough on looking at each nomination that comes in and how they can, best help us. So I would encourage you, even if you're relatively new in Division III, take a look at it. Take a look at the committees. You can go on NCAA.org and go into Division III under committees, and you can get a description for all the committees and what kind of work they do. You can take a look and see what committees might be of interest and throw your hat in. It doesn't hurt. It may take a couple tries to get selected, but if you want to serve, you can serve. You'll get picked without a doubt. You can get in this. If you go on NCAA.org and if you go to like association wide, you can click on committees, and underneath there, you'll see all vacancies. And within the vacancy posting, you can actually click on it. There's active links in each posting. If you click on the title of the committee, you'll pull the roster of who's currently on that committee. Then it will say staff contact, which is actually the staff liaison that manages that committee. If you have specific questions of the time commitment, they are much better suited to answer that question than I am. There's about 180 active committees right now, and I do not know how often they all meet. I don't have that capability right now to do that, but you can shoot them, their email pops up, shoot them an email. They can give you the time commitment, how often they meet. If you have issues with your nomination form, you can click on my name and you'll get my email, and I can help you if you have any issues with your nomination form. And then in the posting itself, it will tell you whether or not it's an September vacancy, whether it's an immediate vacancy, and if there's any legislative composition requirements, such as for a sport committee, if we need a specific region, or maybe we need an administrator or a coach. Those specificities will be outlined in that specific posting. So there's a lot of information there, but there's anything that blue color is an active link that you can click on. So in order to serve, you have to be employed at least part-time. So that's about 50%. And you can be employed at a conference office or through an institution. So as long as you're at a part-time status or above, you can apply for a committee vacancy, and you just have to outline it. You don't have to be directly tied to the athletic department. You don't have to have a direct reporting line to the athletic department. You could be a faculty member or a staff member and still be part of the committee structure. You just need to outline your qualifications of why you would be a good fit for that committee. Well, if there's my name and my email is all over the place on anything on the committee. So if you ever have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help through the process or point you in the right direction. If I don't have the answer, I may direct you to the staff liaison of that committee. But I'm happy to help, and I would encourage you really consider getting involved. It's a great opportunity personally and professionally to be a part of this big structure and being part of the decision-making process.